Hi guys, again I thought I'd just do a quick tournament review for a tournament I attended a couple of days ago. So it's quite a unique one because it's 200 points. So it's Mini Madness, hosted by Dan Garside and Joe Harley, and it's in Dorchester-on-Thames, so fairly local to me. I've been, I think, once or twice before, I can't remember now, but I really like the format. Yeah, just 'cause I think it's really fun and a bit unusual when it kind of just breaks up the usual sort of mundanity of the whatever the meta is at the time. And it's basically a one-day tournament, GBHL 80, 7 games, obviously across one day. Each game is 45 minutes, so it's just another one of those things where if you have if you just get absolutely smashed or something, then 20 minutes later you might be playing a different game and doing well, and it's just kind of it's quite nice, and it's quite fast, and it's quite fun. I think the thing is though is with small games, I think they're a bit more random, because obviously swingy dice rolls could affect the game massively. So if you have 10 dudes, and then you do the fight phase and they're all in combat, and you just roll loads of ones or whatever for that turn and you lose half of them, then the 200 points, that's like really bad, whereas in a bigger game it might even out a bit. So with that in mind, again I was thinking about what army list to take. A few contenders. I was looking at Wolves of Isengard just because Sharku's pretty handy with his Riding Dagger special rule, and then the Wargs get some scouting rules in Wolves of Isengard, and then Sharku's fight 5 on the charge, and he gets free heroic combat, so he's going to be very choppy at low points. Glad I didn't, because there were 5 Wolves of Isengard lists, so that's just kind of quite unoriginal, I guess, now. Another one, I thought probably the most competitive option I thought would be taking 2 for war bands of goblins, Depth of Moria, so 2 captains and then 12 goblins each. So that maxes out numbers, and they also get a banner as well, which is pretty gross. And again, Lurtz' scouts was another one for me. Lurtz getting free heroic combats, then having some scouts is pretty handy. Final one that I didn't take. I was looking at another Isengard one. Assault on Helm's Deep with Big Boss Man Captain with 3 attacks and 3 wounds, and then 9 berserkers. I thought that could be pretty good, but then one bad turn of combat and that's going to be all your berserkers dead, isn't it? But I settled on Wolves of Isengard, as you can probably tell from the photos that have been flashing up whilst I've been waffling on. I thought it kind of struck a balance between actually being pretty good and being quite fun as well. How I ran it was I had Beefy Chiefy, because obviously you have to take him, and then 2 werewolves, and then 10 normal wargs. So I didn't take any are they feral wargs? I can't even remember now. God, whatever they're called, the sort of hobbit version. Obviously Fellsight's handy, but I had 2 werewolves for Fellsight, so I thought it'd be okay. So obviously the rules are that Beefy Chiefy basically gets an extra Might, Will and Fate, which is pretty nice. And then you get to howl once per game, start of the fight phase till the end of the turn. Everyone gets +1 fight value and rerolls natural ones to wound. And also all of your stuff gains a knock to the ground bonus as if they were cavalry. But obviously you don't get the extra attack. I'm pretty sure there's another rule, but I can't remember what it is offhand. So yes, that's what I ended up with. Obviously there's schools of thought, like, do you have 3 werewolves, do you have 4 werewolves? The list that won it had 4 werewolves, and then the third Wolves of Angmar list had 3 werewolves. So I don't know, I'll let people figure out what they think. But I quite liked having 2 werewolves, because I thought I've got the numbers then with 10 wargs for like objectives and stuff. But I still want the threat of 2 werewolves, because you got 3 hitters in that list, and I don't mind that at all, and I think the numbers are quite valuable. But I guess we will see, because I'll tell you how I got on. So with that, let's get into game 1. Right, I am going to whiz through these games because there's 7 to get through, and I'm conscious people probably don't want to listen to me for more than like 20 minutes. But So I forgot to mention the games are played on a 2 foot by 2 foot board. So it's basically using all the scenarios in the match play guide, but pretty much restore distances are halved. So like with domination, they can be sort of twice as close as normal, but you need to be within an inch and a half rather than 3. That sort of thing. So this one was a mirror match straight out the gates. So I played the Angmar Wolfpack list. I can't remember what it's called. I'm calling it different things. This is one with 3 werewolves, and we were playing a scenario that's basically sort of 5 objectives in the middle of the board, so 3 along the centre line, then 1 in each of our areas. It's fortification. That was it. The one where you get the fortification points. And basically, I won priority, so I made my opponent go first. I didn't actually say, sorry, my opponent was Ollie. And yeah, that kind of put him in a very difficult position, because obviously, because it's such a small board, if he moved forward to claim the objective, I would just charge turn 1. And basically, I would just try and do a massive alpha strike type thing and just ram in and combat with my chief. Kind of probably not even bother charging his chief, and 3 werewolves just kill all the wargs and stuff. So he kind of sent 1 werewolf round his right flank behind the house, and then everything else he put was all 10.5 inches back from me. But what that meant is I basically just moved everything up, and I got 4 of the 5 objectives for that turn. So that meant I got tons of fortification points, got all the yummy fortification points, and he only got 1. And then I won priority the turn after, but then he won the heroic move off, basically. So then he charged me, and I think the summary of this game is probably he had the upper hand in combats, because I think he took more of my stuff off the board. But I had, because I was basically able to fight in front of the objectives, it meant I had 2 turns where I just got all the fortification points for 4 objectives, and it just put me so far ahead. I think the game ended like 19-11 in terms of fortification points, because Ollie did break through eventually and started sort of claiming some stuff and clear my wargs off the table. But one key thing was that he threw my leader in, his leader into my leader. I think getting the knockdown bonus and everything, and basically my leader came out on top, and I think I killed him outright. It might have been over 2 turns maybe, but it was very quick. So yeah, my leader just, oh no, it was 2 turns, because I remember so the first time so I kind of messed up slightly, because I put a wound on him, which then makes him a banner, which is the 4th rule of the thing, the Legendary Legion army list thing. So he got a banner because I just chucked a wound on him rather than striking a warg or something I was in combat with, which might have been more sensible. So it did take me 2 turns, but yeah, basically the game ended because I can't remember if it's broken or caught, and I've got my match play guy in front of me, but basically the game ended, but he'd broken through and managed to claw back a bunch of fortification points. But as the game ended, I think if we'd carried on playing, it was still up in the air a bit, but it was kind of a case of a lot of my stuff died, but it died on the objective, so I ended up clinching that one. But I think the first turn totally set the tone, because I think just me dying in front of the objectives was massive, because obviously those 2 turns is basically where I got most of my points. But yeah, it was a really good game actually. Sometimes mirror matches are just awful, but this one was a lot of fun. So it was a good start, and I enjoyed playing Ollie as well. So that was all good. On to the second game. So game 2 was Recon, yay, and I drew Brad, who I've not actually played before, but I think we've been at a few tournaments at the same time over the years. But the bad thing was he had Wolves of Isengard, which is one thing I really didn't want to play, because obviously he has a bunch of Warg Riders that get the knock to the ground bonus against my my Wargs because they're infantry. So I was super worried that basically the Warg Riders just walk through my Wargs, and Sharku in particular would just be taking out Wargs for fun basically, and then if he can kill a bunch of my wargs and then run a few things off the board, then I'm a bit stuffed really. So I was a bit nervous. But we both came on first turn. He only had one guy turn up early with a special scout rule. Again, I won priority and made Brad go first, which put him in a difficult position. So he ended up lining up his dudes kind of fairly far back on the board, probably about 12 inches. Actually, no, how far? Probably about 6 inches on the board. So I kind of responded by just pushing my guys up to obviously almost the halfway point as soon as they came on, and then it came to the move off. So I won priority the following turn, chose to go first obviously. Sharku and Beefy Chiefy both called a heroic move. I won the heroic move, just chucked the chief straight into Sharku, didn't call her with me, and then that just freed up my entire line to just charge. And again, slightly unfortunate, I kind of boxed him in between these buildings a little bit. It wasn't actually on purpose really at all. But yeah, and so this was a nightmare for Brad really. And I think this is the small game coming in, because where it's kind of a bit more swingy, because basically I went in, obviously I got lucky with the priority, I got lucky with the roll off. I then charged Sharku. I called the howl, so I was fight 6, so Sharku would be fight 4. Brad rolls the strike, obviously rolls a 1, so he spent 2 might, and then in the combat I get a 6, and basically I just gobble up Sharku turn 1. So basically a whole series of things went my way, and Brad, I don't think Brad necessarily did anything wrong or whatever. I think it's just kind of dice. I think at the end we were talking about maybe he might have hit him at the back or something, but I think he kind of rely on Sharky so much to like kill warriors and stuff. It's probably, I mean, if I'd have lost that roll off or something, I think he'd have probably chewed up all my wargs, and it would have been just same thing but the other way around. But then with Sharku down, basically I just sort of crunched through everything. And then in the final turn, I was one dude off tabling him. So the orc with throwing spear that he had that came on the table turn 1 and basically didn't move the whole game, because I just won every priority, and then when I didn't, obviously I could just call a move because I still had 2 might on Beefy Chiefy. So I kind of just had total kind of control of going first basically. But yeah, he ended up surviving, otherwise I tabled him. But the problem is I kind of murdered stuff so quickly, I didn't actually run anyone off the table edge. So it was a win, but it kind of felt like a bit of a sort of dicing really. But the score probably wasn't as good as I could have made it, because I didn't actually even run anyone off. But it was a fun game actually. I enjoyed playing Brad, but quite a quick game, quite a dicing, and on to the next one. Right, and then game 3 was Lords of Battle, and I was playing against Wolves of Isengard again, which obviously, happy to play anyone, but it was one of those things where I was a bit like, I was scared of it for the same reasons I was last time. But that's okay. I basically had to deploy first, so I deployed right on the midway point. I kind of didn't do anything fancy, but then my opponent deployed behind these ruins, I guess, so I couldn't charge him turn 1. And then you have to potentially give himself some options in terms of manoeuvrability. But there was a bit of sort of movement and stuff, and he ended up lining up along the back of the board, which I think we agreed at the end was potentially a mistake in terms of kind of trapping yourself, because when I kind of had my guys covering all the exits and stuff, and then he was at the back of the board, I won the move off and was able to basically just trap a whole bunch of stuff at the back of the board. But then after that sort of initial move, I think, he then didn't really put a foot wrong, to be fair. He just kind of did everything everything exactly spot on, and I think that along with I think it's fair to say my dice were not great this game. not like horrifically bad, but it's one of those where I kind of felt like I had the upper hand and things could have gone a bit better for me, but then I just didn't get the kills, didn't get the stuff off the board or whatever, and then my guys just sort of melted away over time. It's just one of those. But then on the flip side, I won a whole bunch of move offs and stuff, so I basically just kept pinning Sharku in place with my Warg Chief. But again, Chief was he was not rolling well. He was a bit rubbish actually this game. And I think it was kind of summarised by me beating Sharku with a Chief and Werewolf. And then my Werewolf was already on 1 wound. Beat him, Sharku was trapped. Obviously I rolled my first double strike against him. Werewolf obviously double ones. And then Sharku's riding dagger thing kills him, and I was just like, and then I don't think the Chief, I'm not sure the Chief did anything either. But it kind of, from that point it then cascaded, I think, and I sort of ended up pretty low on models. So I did lose that one, but luckily not by too much. But I think it's one of those things where I think I did everything I wanted to. It's just it just didn't quite work out. And like I said, after kind of initial lining up against the back of the board, I think obviously it didn't put a foot wrong, to be fair. So I think well deserved win there, and obviously commiserations to me. So it's my first loss. But with that, we'll get into the next game. Right, game 4 was Retrieval, which is one where you deploy in a kind of triangle-y deployment zone, and you've got to try and run your opponent's objective off the board. I was against Matt with his Lothorian, so it was Haldir with a bow, and then I think, 6 warriors with shield, 1 with spear and shield, and then 4 so with bow. So he deployed quite far back. Well, actually, I think he not too far back, but he deployed first, and then I just kind of deployed on the line, but kind of 6.5 inches back. And then continuing the theme of the day, really, I won the first priority, and then forced him to go first, which was quite difficult because then it's kind of you just kind of turtle, or do you come out and actually try and threaten my objective? And he kind of took all of his melee dudes out into a line, and it was one of those ones where I kind of rolled nothing but 6s, and Matt rolled like very rarely higher than like a 3, and he basically had these line of warriors across the middle of the board, and I was charging all over, and I think I called the howl the first turn just to try and chew through those 6 warriors, and I think I killed like 5 in the first turn. It was pretty nuts because I did a heroic combat with the beefy chiefy, so he went into 2, but he was fight 6 because of the howl. Just won the combat, killed both, charged into spear support. Well, actually it was the spear support because of one dude with spear. I assume that's just because of how the points worked out or something. But killed him, and then I think Werewolf and a War killed another one or something. And it's kind of a very simple game in that I kind of then just kept charging everyone basically. It's just and I think I lost potentially a couple of wargs the whole game, but then other than that I was just kind of eating elves, and Haldir did okay. I think he killed a warg before he was inevitably overcome. And then I managed to basically just swoop in with the warg and run off with the objective. And then, sorry, there's a terrible photo at the end, but it's all blurry. There was one elf warrior left at the end of the game. I think he won the last combat of the game to kind of shield me off of him or something. But other than that, it was kind of more or less a tabling, and I managed to get the objective off. And I can't remember what the precise points are, but I think it was pretty big points for me. But it's just one of those ones where it's always going to be a tough matchup just because of the scenario and kind of lists and how they relate to the scenario. But equally, I just could not roll a 6, and Matt could not roll like a 3. So it's just kind of inevitable at that point. But it was a fun game though. Just kind of Obviously, just gobbling up elves is always amusing. But yeah, that was a good game. And with that, I think we had the lunch break after that, and then we came back for game 5. Okay, game 5 was domination against Michael and his Halls of Thranduil, which was Legolas in charge, and then I think it was 8 elves, mixture of shields and glaives, I think roughly even, I think. We're on a Weathertop board, so it's obviously slightly challenging for cavalry, but apart from the central objective, the objectives were all on the outside, so that was actually not the worst thing ever. So this is kind of like the opposite in terms of dice, in that I just rolled like absolute crap. So Michael had Legolas up on Weathertop, sort of shooting down at wargs and stuff. And to be fair, Legolas' shooting was awful. I don't think he killed anything the whole game. I think he spent a point of might to take a wounded werewolf off kind of later in the game. But basically, he had these 4 elves just in sort of the top right corner, and they basically just beat the crap out of me. And I called the Howl turn 1 because I basically did the Howl combat thing where I wanted to, kill at least 3 of the 4 elves really, and I just completely bounced off with all of my rolls. And to be honest, it's all kind of a blur of rolling ones and models being taken off the board, but I didn't get many photos. I think the photos I have are mostly sort of after the event because it all happened so fast. But basically my werewolves and chief got taken off, and I think the chief tried to jump up to get Legolas because I was kind of worried about him. Because he bounced off some elves, got fed up, jumped up for Legolas, and Legolas sort of trapped and killed him with a couple of friends. I tried to send a couple of wargs into the middle of the board, but Michael had a couple of elves that were Legolas, and they just dropped through everything. Just everything I had that was in that top right fight just died, which was actually quite a lot. But the only saving grace was I controlled 3 of the 5 objectives at the end of the game, just through wargs not running away, but luckily that just quartered me with 3 wargs left. So, in fact, I think the chief ran away. I'm sorry, I just remember now. I think I rolled snake eyes for the chief, because he got trapped and he lost a wound or 2. But yeah, he ran away, he rolled snake eyes. I remember now. It's only 2 days ago, but I already blocked it from my memory. But yeah, basically the game ended with me broken, chief dead. I think I killed 2 models. I just completely bounced off. But having a few objectives kind of brought it back to a reasonable score. But I still lost because of the whole kind of leader being dead and broken jam. But it was a nice game actually. But it was just one of those where your dice are just rubbish, and it's just, what can you do? You just is what it is. But to be fair, Michael played it absolutely, spot on, and he got the spot prize for crawling as well. So he had one dude who wasn't even doing anything for 3 turns. He was just crawling around to get a spot prize, because there are spot prizes for doing various things. So playing a man down and still decimating me is impressive work. But so that was that one. So into game 6 now. Oh yes, game 6. I was just looking at the photos and reminding myself. Contest of Champions, I was like, Beefy Chiefy's alright, let's see who we get. And there was some problem with the drawing of matches and stuff, so I sat down at the table and there was lots of scouts there, and I thought, okay, that's a bit scary, but I can deal with that. And then we checked again, like one of us was sat at the wrong table, so then I ended up opposite Riders of Aemir, which is one where Aemir gets free heroic combats, and I was just like, I'm in danger. So it was Aemir and 4 riders. I obviously lined up on the middle. I lost the first heroic move off. Aemir charged into 2 wargs. He kind of tried to form a bubble around Aemir. Obviously my plan was I got a warg, werewolf and Beefy Chiefy into 1 rider. I was going to combat off them. My dice were just... So he rolled the 6 off 1 dice, and... yeah, I had, how many did I have? I had 6 dice, didn't get anything that was even mightable, so that combat failed to go off. And I think it's one of those where, because it's such a small game, I think that lost it, because I think if that combat had gone off, I would have charged a werewolf and beefy chiefy into Aemir, and the odds are I would still lose. But if Aemir fluffs and it's not mightable, then I think that's game to me. But I think I was always going to really struggle at this game, but I think that was the one chance, and it kind of didn't work. So Aemir, killed 2, combated into another 1 or 2, killed them. I was already like really far behind, and I lost the move off again the following turn. And then Aemir just dropped. There's not too much else to say really. I think my chief survived and everything. I didn't take many photos actually, because it was a very quick game. But yeah, no, he just cut through a bunch of stuff and did what he needed to do. In fact, I did kill everything other than Aemir, which is what triggered the end of the game. But it was Aemir did what he needed to do, and that was that. But it's kind of a bit of a shame it was a quick game, because I sort of enjoyed playing my opponent, but it was it was all over pretty quickly. To be fair, we could have probably set up and played again, but I was just sort of knackered by that point, so it didn't even occur to me. But so that was that. So what's that? 3 wins, 3 losses going into the last game. Okay, so last game was Sites of Power, which is a new scenario where there's kind of 4 objectives, and if you kind of look at the the 4 side of a dice, they're kind of arranged in that order. And I was very pleased actually, because my last game was against Stuart, who brought I actually can't remember what list it is, but it's the one that's basically done lendings. I think it was Usurpers. Usurpers of Edoras, yeah. It was basically, this is another one I was looking at actually, if I'd have had my Dunlendings painted up, but he had 2 Dunland Chiefs and just loads of wild men. And much to my upset, he had 6 brands, I think, as well, which obviously caused terror for beasts, which was kind of slightly unfortunate because I had a lot of beasts. And I was pleased because we played last Mini Madness, and he was my last game in the last outing as well, where I had my Iron Guard, he had his Minas Tirith, and my Iron Guard just kind of walked through everything, rolling all the 6s and getting all the kills and stuff. So I was hoping to repeat that ideally. But yeah, he sort of so it was Maelstrom, so we to cut a long story short, he basically ended up deploying on opposite sides, so I sort of ran up to him, but luckily that meant his secondary chief spent 1 might to sort of go next to his general, and I was able to run across the board, so I kind of controlled 3 out of 4 of the objectives, kind of just in terms of where the battle lines were, so that was pretty nice. And it was funny actually, because it was quite even, and my sort of big hitters were doing alright. The werewolves and beefy chiefy were doing okay. But yeah, everything else was a bit sort of unspectacular. But then my esteemed colleague Tom Rice came and sat with me, and then for some reason my dice were just gross the second he turned up, and then it was one of those where it just turned into a dicing. Like I was just rolling, just sort of winning all the fights, killing all the Dunlendings, and it's just one of those where Stuart couldn't do anything about it. So it's just a bit of a dicing, but it was really fun actually, just kind of chilling and having a nice sort of relaxing game to end with. But yeah, it was just kind of one of those where my wolves eventually chewed through everything, and I think my chief went and killed his general eventually, and then I think a werewolf killed his other chief, which is worth points in this game. He killed one of my werewolves, but it wasn't the right werewolf, because I had obviously 2 werewolves, and you basically get points for the second second most expensive model, and we said it was the werewolf with the black fur, and he killed the one with the, I should know because I painted them. I think it's brown fur, but it was good fun actually. I think it was took off a werewolf and a few wargs, but ultimately I was a lot of tune up Dunlendings to end the day with. But a really nice one to end on actually. But that was it. It was good actually, because although it was a long day and it was 7 games, it sounds like a lot. It's just nice to play a game. Most of the time it didn't go to time. I think I had a couple where I was kind of knocking on 45 minutes, but you get a decent break, so it's quite, it's quite relaxed, and you get, some time to reset between games and stuff. So it's just a nice outing basically. It wasn't too stressful. Sometimes I come back from a tourney and I'm just a bit dead really, but this one wasn't like that. It was all good. And I finished 13th out of 30th, so extremely average. But no, it was good, and yeah, I'd just recommend it to anyone really as a fun tournament if you're sort of able to get to South Oxfordshire. I'm definitely going to try and go again next year because I'm a big fan of the format, and Dan and Joe run a very sort of tight and organised ship really. So yeah, definitely try and make it back next year. But I hope you guys enjoyed my inane waffling, and I'll catch you at the next one.